Okay. Hi. Yay. Ah,
Hi.
Hey.
I
So
am.
we made it.
What?
We made it. I was like, I've never done like having somebody join me before. So
Well, you never know. You're a total pro. You look gorgeous.
oh, thanks.
Gorgeous.
I did debate like whether I should turn on a filter for this or not. I know, right? Sad.
Darkness is my filter. Poor light.
For lighting. Yeah. It's already starting to get really dark outside here, and I don't have any more natural light, so I've just got the lovely glaring light. Just figured we wait a few minutes here for people to join in.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is like my second time doing a live.
Very nice.
I know, I'm a little scared.
This is my very first.
Well, I figured, you know.
Hey, this is Tommy's first time doing a live too. He needs to learn manners.
I have a puppy is upstairs with the husband and the children.
Well, Tommy just does what he wants because he's a cat.
What was the thing? Honey badger? Wasn't there like a whole thing about that? So does he think that he's a honey badger maybe?
Or honey badger for sure.
So what are you working on?
Well, right now I'm trying to make a magic ring, but I think I can't totally.
Oh no.
Of course I can remember. It's just muscle memory, but there it is.
I was gonna say, you know, Amber from Amber Bliss This,
Yeah.
she a trick for the magic circle or magic ring on her telescope last week, maybe it was the week before. And it actually was a really neat little trick. I learned something. I was pretty impressed with that. I'm like, I'm totally going to try that the next time I have a magic ring that I need to work.
Well, I'll have to look at it. Since I've never done a live before and I tend to mess up my projects whilst in conversation, I thought I would just do a very simple kerchief scarf, granny scarf.
Nice.
Yeah.
Simple, no thinking.
Yes, no counting.
Mm-hmm. I actually, right before dinner here and in preparation for this live tonight, I had to frog back 1.5 sections of the blanket I'm working on.
Oh no.
You know, where it has to be a certain stitch multiple, and I was off, and I'm like, dang it.
We're back to the last section and figure out.
Yeah, and I ended up skipping a stitch, so I'm like, ask how many times I frogged this blanket. I'm up to 6 right now.
Oh no.
6. I know, it's ridiculous. I need to start paying better attention is what the moral of the story is. So okay, well, it's 7 o'clock. I don't know if we want to give people another I'm so glad it's not just me, Aza. I think we'll give people another few minutes maybe to hop on here, but for those that are here already, this is the very first monthly book club meeting for books, whips, and sips that I'm starting. It's something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, so bear with me through all of my many ums and uhs. I'm not good in front of a camera, so.
Well, that's okay. Just look at your work and you won't even remember you're in front of a camera.
I was actually thinking how, like, it's a good thing that crochet is such a great stress reliever.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm
Ah,
on a blanket right now for a friend of mine down the street that lives down the street from me is pregnant with her second child, first boy.
oh yeah.
And so I thought I would make her a baby blanket, which I haven't really been sharing any pictures of it on the grid here because she follows me and I don't want her to see it and ruin the surprise. But I think it might possibly be another pattern upcoming.
Oh, fun.
I can figure out my math and not make everybody else miserable because I messed that up.
Yeah, speaking of crochet math, did you get your math figured out on that thing that you asked me about?
Yes.
I don't even remember what it was.
So it's another project that I'm working on that 𝘬𝘬𝘀𝘆 is sponsored. And yeah, and so like I had to know how much, and I always try and err on the side of too much as opposed to too little. So I wanted to make sure, and I just don't trust my math skills these days. So I had to send it off and what do you call that? Yeah, see, this is part of my problem right here. I can't even think of some words.
I had to take edit your math. Is that what you're thinking of?
Something like that, yeah.
But then, of course, I'm like, so I did this and I did this. I got this answer, but I can't remember. I was like, so I did this and this, and then I did like 7.
I don't remember what it was.
And this is what the answer that I got, and it made perfect sense at the time, but I can't remember the rest of the process. So I hope that's right.
I know how you mean about that. Like, honestly, it's so funny how many different ways there are to calculate the exact same thing. I mean, clearly you, me, and my husband all did the same math different ways, and all three of us got different numbers that are in the same ballpark. But I'm like, okay, I'll just go with the highest one and add 100.
Oh, perfect.
You know.
Yeah.
Crochet Common Core, that is awesome. It feels like that, definitely. Oh my gosh. Nailed it. So my fourth grader has recently, like, you know, they're doing all the Common Core stuff at school, and I started to try and teach them, you know, when we were doing the homeschool stuff at the end of last school year, they were starting to introduce them to division, and I'm like sitting there teaching him the old school way, and he's just not getting it. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, well, you know, like, how are they teaching you to do it? Because clearly it's not the same thing. And it's like, I don't know. I'm like, I had to like relearn all of fourth grade math. It's
word.
Well, more sips if so. Yeah, definitely. I don't know. It could be more or less potentially.
I'm trying to do first grade Common Core, and I'm just and so finally my husband and I take turns because he's working from home. And we trade off. So we have our other business and we work out of a commercial kitchen for that. So we trade off schooling days and kitchen days. And so he finally taught her just regular carry the one and got it like that. And I'm like, oh, okay.
I think, again, it comes back to just people do it differently. And like, honestly, you know, when I first heard about Common Core, this is before I had any children that were in school at that time. I was kind of like, why are you going to mess with a good thing? You know, like, I don't get it. And then what I realized was when my son came home and was learning all of this stuff, I realized that the way I do math in my head
is Common Core.
Doing it on, it's Common Core. So I'm like, okay, fine, I'll shut up now.
But it's like the principles, though, like, I don't know. I'm so familiar with all the base principles of math that I can do the Common Core math in my head easily.
Right.
But then
problem with like the correct terminology for everything.
Right. But then teaching the base principles, which by now are just second nature because I've done so much math in my life.
Darn crochet. Oh man. Yeah. Okay, so I think that we have probably got and like we've given people enough time so let's go ahead and get started. So again, for those that are just now joining in, I'm Kristen. Obviously, if you have been following me and you're here, you probably already know who I am. But with me and co-hosting our first ever Books, Whips, and Sips book club is my friend Emily from 4mm Designs.
Hi.
So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your crochet journey, just kind of whatever you want to give us your spiel.
Okay, well, so let's see. My crochet journey started many, many years ago. My old roommate taught me how to crochet. My great grandma actually pretty much all I knew of her was sitting and crocheting. I mean, that's not entirely true, but you get what I mean. She just always had a hook in her hand.
Sure.
And but she didn't teach me. But I just always liked, I mean, she just always did it, and she made some really beautiful things. But then my roommate taught me when I was, I don't know, like 13, 15 years ago. And I didn't do it for a while. But then my son was born. So my son is my second child, and he was born, and I just kind of, I had some postpartum depression issues, and I just kind of needed like an outlet. He was a very difficult baby. He's a wonderful child now though, but I needed something kind of for myself, just an outlet. And so I started crocheting again, and just kind of really dove back in and decided that I wanted to try my hand at, selling my stuff. And so here I am, I guess. That was about 5 years ago that I got really back into it. And yeah, so.
Well, back in you were doing shows and stuff, right? Like you do craft shows and farmers markets and such.
Yes. Well, pre-corona.
Right. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yes. Pre-COVID. Yeah, I've done several shows by now. And then, I've got a couple of, local retailers that, stock my stuff mostly in the winter, because I mean, crochet is warm. Right. And then actually this that I'm working on, this tiny kerchief scarf, is for a new shop that's opening up, and I'm going to be consigning some stuff with them. So
oh, fun. That's awesome. So how many does that make? 2, 3?
Sorry, what? How many stores?
Yeah.
4 or 5, something like that.
Wow. You go, girl. That's awesome. And you've got patterns. You've got patterns that designed and have available as well, right?
Yes, I do have some patterns. The most popular is the 𝘸𝘠𝘕 pattern. And that's
because it's awesome.
Thanks. And I feel like I could make those in my sleep now, because everybody seems to love them, which is great.
Yeah.
That's a lot of what I sell at the shops. And then this shop wants a little more variety, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, making the same thing over and over again can be nice and relaxing, but sometimes it's nice to change it up a little bit. Oh, somebody's asking if you have one that you can show.
I have part of one. And then I saw somebody else asked about a rundown of stuff that I have at local retailers, so I'll give you that. So this might be hard to see, but it's
Maybe
just,
you can post your story live.
yeah, I can do that. I can do a whip one up real quick.
Sure.
So funny.
I don't know if you're already conversation about trying to count and like do all that. Oh yeah, made the Common Core comment. Hi Ruth, how are you? Oh man, yeah. If you would just take a picture and post it on your stories afterwards. That way people can get a kind of a close-up look. And
yeah,
sometimes it's weird on the cameras here.
Sorry, I have a child about to. Oh,
I think my husband gave a penalty of death to disturbing me down here, so I turned him yelling and up there, and I'm like, yeah, good luck with that.
I told my husband that I was going to lock the door, and then I forgot. So there you have it.
Oh, Ruth, what time is it there? Because clearly I can't do math anymore tonight. Oh, Azza, I'm so glad that you could join us. I'm just happy there's people here.
Well, of course,
I don't know.
We've got great Instagram friends who have been such an awesome support.
Awesome.
Oh, Ruth, go to bed.
Holy cow. 1:13. Go to bed. You can watch the replay. Oh, bless you.
But that's kind of
She's probably like, get the book. That's what I'm here for. Let me go to sleep. Talk about the book and go to bed.
Really quick though, I will answer the question about what I have in shops. Let's see. For the most part, it's hats, beanies. That's just, I'm in Montana, so it's still winter. It's so cold right now, but it's mostly hats. I've kind of, for shops, the main problem or question that I have to ask myself when I put stuff with a wholesaler or up for consignment is like, where can I actually make money on it, and can they actually make money on it? Because like, these kerchief scarves, they're super popular at shows, but in a shop they probably have to sell for like $45 to $50, which kind of makes me feel a little bit ill. And thankfully my shops are very touristy places, so they can kind of get away with that. But mostly hats have a really good, they can sell them for a reasonable price. I can make them quickly and get, make some money myself. So I guess overall, yes, Mrs. Murphy, I do use 3 times the cost plus, but for wholesale, it's a little different, because then I would be charging, like I would be charging a wholesaler something around $28 per item, and that's just not something that they can always do. So
you want it to be an exact science, but it just can't be for handmade, because the problem is that people don't always want to pay $50 for a hat.
Right. So,
or what hat.
Yeah. So I generally, and then the other issue is that you have a lot of things that won't sell, like, I don't know, like dishcloths and stuff. They're fun. But so many people's aunt makes those for free and gives them out as Christmas gifts or whatever. So like people don't buy those things. So you want something that's going to move and that still kind of is reasonably priced. So
Yeah.
Generally I've done.
So I recently, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no, that's fine.
So I think there's a little delay.
I think that,
like on my end anyway.
Yeah, I think there is. I'm not sure. Sorry. I don't know why that would be, but
it's all good.
Yeah, so hats are good. I'm trying to think of what else. Let's see.
So in the pumpkins, I had pumpkins, like handmade pumpkins were a wonderful seller for me.
Yeah.
And not like it's not the pattern that I'm using. It's not really hard. It's literally a rectangle made with half double crochet in the third loop, seamed up the short side. I've got a whole video for it on YouTube, but my point is I can make those suckers so fast, and that's something that sells really well for the store that I'm in. And he actually, I have kind of a different arrangement with him. I mean, I guess technically he would be a wholesaler for me. I'm selling at a wholesale rate for him, but I sell at a rate that I'm going to make money. And if he's comfortable with that price, then cool. Like I think he's got I think sometimes it comes down to knowing not just your end customer, but also like knowing who your store's clientele really caters to.
Right.
But this might be a really good topic for another potential live. So we might have to, let's put a pin in this.
Yes.
I have to come back to that another time. I don't want to get completely off topic here. But that's actually a really good, a good discussion. So I think, Emily, maybe if you're interested, we can dive into that deeper on another live at some point here. And yeah, might be a good resource for some people.
Yeah. Next time I can lock my kids out, I will, we can do that.
It's too bad, like, if they're not like my puppy. My puppy, I just give him like a Kong filled with the treats, and she's like, cool, peace out, mom.
Exactly.
All right, cool. So we, in March here, you and I read The Whisper Man.
Yes.
And Emily actually did the audiobook version, whereas I did, ooh, that's a good call, Mrs. Murphy. Do like questions ahead of time. Night, Ruth, you get some sleep, and we'll chat with you tomorrow, lady. So sorry, I'm trying to like read and talk all at the same time. What was I saying? Hi, I'm Kristen, and I'm easily distracted.
We read the
okay audio version.
And I listened to the Audible. I listened to it.
I bet that was probably like almost creepier. Did they read it and kind of like, what was the tone like? Yeah, squirrel.
So it's narrated, well, it's set in England.
Yes.
Somewhere in England. The town, I believe, is
somewhere in England.
Well, so I'm realizing, this is a small aside, I'll try not to make it too long, but I'm realizing that I just do not know the geography of the UK, because I basically thought it was
and then,
what's that?
if Ruth were still here instead of asleep. Hang on, I managed to like run over my barn with my desk chair, and now it's like all caught up in the wheel, and I can't get anywhere with my project. I'm here, but I'm down there trying to untangle it.
So I think the setting is in the Yorkshire area. And the only reason I think that is because that is the accent of the narrator. And
okay.
it seems like they try to match the narrator with the region.
Right.
And he has just, yay!
Sorry.
That's where Henry Cavill is from, and where he's not from. Not tracking you there.
Yeah, I'm not really. I don't. I'm sorry, don't get that one. Honestly, I know the name Henry Cavill, but I'm totally blanking on why I know the name.
So am I. I'm very
okay.
You're very American. Apologies. In regards to geography. Okay.
See previous station. I'm really glad I'm not still in school. Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I got it now. And thank you. Okay, sorry. I knew it sounded familiar. Tina's like, girl. Oh, man, I am something tonight. I don't know what it is.
Well, we're high on tea.
Yeah, that's what it
is. So anyway, the author's voice is excellent. Like, he's just a very good narrator, and he really does. I mean, he's very expressive. He's a very good narrator.
Awesome.
And there is one part, and this is not a spoiler. This is not a spoiler. Okay. There's one part where I seriously almost had to shut it off because it was so creepy. So.
Oh yeah, I think you were talking about that. And I was like,
yes.
Oh, I bet that would be like, I don't know how well I would sleep. You know, like.
Well, I was having
that, just like reading the regular book.
I was working alone in our kitchen, and I mean, I don't know how many of you have worked in a commercial kitchen, but it's like basically a giant cave, and I was by myself, and then, like refrigerators, the fans turn off and on randomly, and then this creepy moment, and I just about came unglued.
That's hilarious.
A+ narration.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I mean, I can imagine that would definitely lend to the overall creepiness of the story for sure.
Yes.
Is that like, okay, what's your gut reaction? Just, gut reaction to the story in general.
I really liked it. It was really, I mean, in amongst all the, scariness, because it's a creepy story, and it
is.
But there's just a lot of sadness in there too. It's like, it's got a lot of hard family dynamics that make it really sad.
Definitely. That was one of the was that there was a lot of self-loathing. I felt like, and not just like one of the characters, like three of them,
right?
Maybe four,
right?
Definitely a resounding theme in the book, which I found was handled, I thought, pretty interestingly. Felt very authentic to me.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah,
there were a lot of ways that the character Tom he's a widower.
Are you like, my pinging was something? I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm sorry if that's everybody else.
So Tom is a widower, and so he's raising his son alone, and like, as a parent, there's a lot of ways that I could relate to Tom and just like really feel the things that he's feeling. Not the part where I've lost my partner, just the part where it's just like,
relate.
What's that?
Trying to relate sometimes to the kids or say something that's gonna
and feel
meaningful conversations.
Right. And kind of feeling like you're doing 96% of everything wrong. And so yeah, he was pretty relatable. Although sometimes I wanted to wring his.
Yeah. There was definitely one point, and I think, and we can get to this part without having any kind of a spoiler thing too. You and I both agreed about the fact that like we both had this concept of like, okay, there's this dad and this son, and the wife/mom just died, and all of a sudden, you know, he's having a hard time relating to his son. Like he's grief stricken. Why are they not in therapy?
Oh,
like I
no.
feel like
yes.
I feel like that would have been like the first, you know, like, I don't know. Maybe it's a different kind of a culture. I don't know how.
Well,
that's actually a very interesting fact. I wonder if anybody from the UK, if they're still on, or maybe watching this after the fact, would care to comment about that. I don't know what people feel about that over there, but it just kind of struck me like, why aren't they seeing a counselor or something?
Right. Well, and I mean, I think no matter how you feel about therapy, grief counseling has always been like a thing that people do. And Tom really should have been in grief therapy with his poor son, his poor 7-year-old son.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I have to say though, my resounding like gut reaction to this book was it was creepy and compelling, and I would even use the word insidious.
Yeah.
Because right? So if you haven't read this book, basically it's about a man and his son. Obviously they've been bereaved of wife, and yes, sad stories definitely hurt, and this is not an easy one to read, but it's the insidiousness comes in because there's what they call him the Whisper Man, and he was a serial killer of little boys from 20 years prior, who has since been in jail, and then all of a sudden there's copycat crimes coming up, and they're trying to figure out, you know, who's the new Whisper Man. And it's creepy. Like, I don't know. There was a lot going on, and I will say, like, I didn't see it coming. It's not who I thought it was going to be.
Right.
But it kind of is. That later when we have the spoiler disclaimer. But yeah. Yeah, definitely that would be a good idea. I'm curious if I should have listened to this or not. I might go back and try and listen to this on audio.
Yeah.
To see if that's, at least I know it's coming now.
Still lose it a little.
That can only help me.
I will say,
right.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Last one I couldn't finish was Room. Yeah, that makes sense.
What was that?
That was the one where the kid, right? The kid and his mom were like in a room. They were like, the mom had been kidnapped by this guy and forced to live in a room with her son who was by this guy. I think that's the one. Aza, you might have to confirm on for me. I will say about this book though, excuse me, Sanatorium. Ooh, that sounds amazing. Just by the title.
That does. And creepy.
For this book, so this serial killer, there is no pedophilia in his crimes.
No.
So That was
There's
actually,
none, which I'm glad about because I'm not sure I could have kept reading it if that had been the case.
yeah.
It's
yeah.
bad enough as it is. Like,
I,
the fact that it's about a child.
yes. So, that, because that is kind of that's a really hard one, a really hard topic, and there is not that component in this book. So, if that's something,
if that's a trigger or anything,
yes,
you're free of it.
Yes.
So yeah, good point. I'm glad you brought that up for people because I hadn't thought to bring that up.
That usually,
before we get into
a component,
sorry, go ahead.
That usually seems to be a part of serial killer books, and that can be a hard bit and like a deal breaker for, especially with kids. So that's not part of this book.
I feel like, my mom makes fun of me because I don't watch the news because I swear there's always, some child being kidnapped or something, and she's like, well, you never watch the news. And she proceeds to tell me all about it. I'm like, really? There's a reason I avoid it. Like, I don't need to know it. Scary stuff. I digress. Sorry. I got distracted again. Squirrel. But before we jump into more of like the detail of the book, I just want to say that I do have a review of the book written and I plan to post it tomorrow on my blog. I'm going to do a replay of this book club here and I'll put it on my IGTV, and if I can figure out how to format it for YouTube, I'm planning to try and do that too. And I'll link those or mention them so that information is there. But the review on the blog will not have any spoilers. And so far, nothing that we've talked about has had any spoilers, but that's about to change. So if you guys have not read the book and you want to keep the surprise, probably ought to hop off now because we are going to really kind of dig into it and get into the whole spoiler thing. So I'm going to give it a few minutes, maybe work a couple of stitches. I don't know. I'm working the star stitch right now. So this is how I found my last error. So we'll see how well it goes this time.
Yeah.
I had to frog back 2 sections for anybody that missed that earlier.
You'll have to watch this after you've finished and let us know.
What'd you say?
Scrap Collector just said bye, and I don't know her name. His name. Their name.
Her name. I'm blanking on it right now as well.
Sorry, Scrap Collector.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Yes.
Which book? The one that we're discussing or the one that Scrap Collector was talking about? She was talking about Sanitarium. But the book we are talking about tonight that we're about to do spoilers on is The Whisper Man by Alex North. It was actually his first book, which I think that's pretty impressive. That's a pretty impressive first novel right there.
Oh,
so
for some reason I thought he had done a lot more, but
he has. It's an older book.
Oh,
being discussed is Whisper. Oh, I was gonna say too. I guess I should have done that before a couple of people hopped off, and I'm an idiot like that. Next month's book is going to be The Whisper Network. So, yes, let us know what you think about it, Mrs. Murphy. Want to hear. Try not to do it in the dark. Don't listen in the dark. Yeah, so next month's book for April is going to be Whisper Network, which I didn't mean to do anything like whisper. That was completely unintentional. Honestly, I finished Whisper Network before I finished Whisper Man, and I'm still just dying to talk about this with somebody. Good night. So, yeah, I have to make it next month's book because somebody needs to talk to me about that one. We need to have this conversation.
Yeah.
All right. I think I think we've given people plenty of time. So we're going to go on ahead. And again, we are discussing Whisper Man. I saw some people just joined in. So Whisper Man is the book that we are discussing, and we are about to get into some spoilers. So if you don't want to have anything spoiled, you should probably go ahead and hop off now. So there was a quote from the book that I was going to read only because it kind of, I don't know, it felt like I needed to share it. And it says, he wondered if maybe this was a nightmare after all, just not the kind you got to wake up from. The world was full of bad men, full of bad dreams that didn't always happen when you were asleep. And if that doesn't sum up this book, I don't know what does. Like, it was definitely on the creepy side.
Yes.
I felt like there was a lot going on with this book, even aside from the serial killer aspect of it. As we were discussing a little bit earlier with, grief and kind of like this self-loathing that some of the characters had going.
Still here.
Give me a thumbs up if we're okay.
I'm okay here. Everybody good?
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Molly. Okay, cool. Then let's see. Looking at my notes, because if I didn't have an outline, that squirrel thing would be a real problem. So, okay, going back to some of the creepiness of this, one of the things that kind of like, and I don't know if this is probably completely unintentional on the part of the author, or who knows, it could have been very intentional, but when Tom, who is a writer, was discussing, like, he was talking about his wife, and he was going to write about his wife, and he just kept writing Rebecca, which is the name of another famous kind of dark gothic thriller that's pretty classic. And that just led, I thought, to like the kind of overall creepiness of the story even more so. And you've got this scary house that has like, I kind of wanted a picture of this house.
Right.
Like, I keep imagining it got like this winky face or something. I don't even know what's going on. But yeah, like the creepiness of it was 100%.
Well, I mean, the house.
How would you? Go ahead.
Oh, the house is almost, I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to say that the house is a character, but it's definitely like
it was a player.
Yeah.
In the game, for sure.
That's exactly the right way to put it, because the house has its own backstory,
history
that you're finding out as you're going along, that's like absolutely crucial to the pieces all falling together at the end. So
right
the house, yes.
And even just the little tip that you get like throughout the story, like the kids all calling it the scary house, for example. Like, right. This just, I have to give him props. I mean, I thought that he really tied everything together. I love how like there's all these little breadcrumbs sprinkled throughout the story, and everything just kind of comes together so neatly at the end. And it's like, I don't know, like I felt like the house was part of that, and with like calling it the scary house, and like you were saying towards the end, a lot more comes out of it. And we find out why Jake was so enthralled and needed to have this particular house. And yeah.
And I will say, so he does tie it up in a nice bow, but I would not go so far as to say it's a happy ending. So
right. No, I felt a really good ending. Yeah. I really did like it. I know Carrie was saying that she kind of wasn't a big fan of how it was a little too neatly done, but I kind of feel like the end was pretty, like, I don't want to say realistic, but kind of felt true. Like it was, okay, so for example, it kind of left you guessing. It didn't tie everything up really neatly.
Right.
Because it's like, just for example, the normal aspect of it. Was it real or was it? You know, like he never really, in my opinion, kind of came out to say it one way or another. He definitely left it up to the reader to try and figure that out, you know, on their own.
Right.
Yeah, I can see that. I just think, like, at the same point, like, I don't know. Hang on. Now I've got to look back at the book. Hang on. This is why I have it down here. This is why sometimes I audiobook versions, because I want to flip back in passages and stuff. And it's like, I don't know. I felt like the prison scene at the end of the book, when the new Whisper Man was put away.
Ugh.
Yeah. Like, creepy, weird, and somewhat unsatisfying. I think that was probably my bit with it. But I felt like with Tom and his dad and everything that happened there, like, I felt like that all ended pretty interesting, like true to the characters, true to the story.
Right.
And Amanda's end, but I think we're getting ahead of ourselves now. Sorry.
Right.
Squirrel.
So, just for watching the time, I'm not sure if Instagram Lives still shut off at an hour, but we got like
Did they? Oh, I didn't.
We got like
Okay.
18 minutes left.
Oh crap. Okay. All right. Well, let's press on.
Yes.
Trying to think of some of the more interesting points that we were talking about. Oh, so what about Norman Collins?
Oh, so
Norman Collins. Yeah. So he is this guy that he's totally, as my kids would say, looking kind of sus, because they're all into Among Us. And I have to say, I never really liked him for the crimes, but what he actually, like, his particular hobby of kind of collecting and paying tribute, I felt like it was almost like religion for him. Like, he went into this house to pay homage to this dead boy's bones. Like, that's just disturbing on so many different levels.
Right. And, you know, I was kind of thinking that, so Norman Collins is this, when Jake and Tom first move into their new house, Tom is home one day and sees this creeper trying to break in.
Impeccably and just,
yeah, I mean, it's very like a very strange dichotomy of things. Like, you could tell, I mean, the exterior was just completely fake, right? And the polite talk was completely fake, and on the inside he was a very, very sick person,
right?
And so he was just, he wasn't, you know, the criminal, spoiler,
Right?
But he was a criminal. Like, he was still capitalizing on people's loss and not just loss, but like violent crime.
And making no attempts to solve the crimes or help the police officers or anything to solve the cases. I mean, the entire time, 20 years ago, he knew where the kids' bones were. You know, that's just creepy.
Right. And yeah, who knows how long he had been, like, going to see it.
Yeah. Like, it felt like the way he was describing it, like it was almost a religious experience for him. And it was just another creepy for real.
He was so gross. And I mean, the thing that kind of grosses me out about Norman Collins and, you know, anyone kind of in his circle, like that, is that if he hadn't actually, what's the word? If he hadn't actually committed a physical crime, which we won't say what it is, like if he hadn't,
then he would have never,
yeah,
nothing that we could have done.
Been able to continue doing what he was doing, basically.
This is perfect.
What's that?
Because it's perfectly legal.
Right.
And it's creepy.
Right.
I think that might have been funny. Honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, yeah. He was still violating everyone that he came into contact with. But he wasn't by the book criminal, I guess. So that just
right.
Me
There's
out.
Nothing they
and it grosses
thrown at him. Right.
He's kind of based in reality, right? Like there are plenty. Yeah, there's just plenty of sort of voyeuristic criminals who just go about their way, just violating people and getting away with it. Always. Ew. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I better be with that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. I want to talk about the paranormal aspect too.
Yeah.
Because, so interesting conversation to jump in the middle of. Yeah. So the paranormal aspect, the entire book, the author kind of leads you to question the entire time whether or not ghosts exist or if it's all kind of made up. And, you know, there's Jake, who has been described as a sensitive child. He's got an imaginary friend that he talks to, and maybe it's his way of coping with the loss of his mom, or maybe he's seeing ghosts, and we don't really know. Even at the end, it kind of leaves it open-ended a little bit. I think I have my thoughts with regards to all of that. And I have my I told you so moment. Yeah. You know that's going to come up, right, Emily?
Yeah. I tried not to resent the fact that you picked up on that you got that.
So at the beginning of the book, there's the little girl that Jake is talking to in his school classroom. And periodically throughout the book, she appears and he's talking to her, and kids will make fun of him and such. And I texted Emily and I said, I bet you that the little girl is his mom. Okay, spoiler alert, I was right. Yeah. Well, but I will say I was blown away about who the new Whisper Man was going to be, because I thought that since they never found that other, I can't remember the other little boy's name, not Neil, but
Tony.
Yeah. Since they never found him, I thought that he grew up to be the perp and was the new Whisper Man. Because a lot of times people that are abused go on to become abusers, which I had it half right, because clearly we can't tell. It just wasn't that thing. I don't know. I know I said no, like that we were going to do spoilers and talk about it here, and it's like I find myself hesitating to come right out and say everything. But yeah, so I mean, I guess if you've read the book, you're going to understand what we're talking about. And if not, then at least we're not ruining it completely for you.
Exactly. We can leave with a clean conscience.
Yes, mostly. Anyway, I thought that was. Did you predict who the Whisper Man was going to be? Did you have it in your head who you thought the new one was going to be?
I did not. And that was actually one thing that impressed me about this book, was that normally I can. Normally there's some point in the book, and it depends on the author, but like, especially with the sort of the the brain candy books or whatever they're called. I can't think of it.
Yeah.
But
the easy reads.
Books that are, that are more easy read. I'm like, yeah, okay. I saw that coming about 100 pages ago. Thanks. But this one I really didn't. And so that impressed me.
Yeah.
It definitely clicked for me before the big reveal, I guess, but it wasn't much before the big reveal. So
I felt like I got sideswiped by it. Like, obviously when they found Tony, like, my theory was debunked there. But I had no clue then who it was. So, like, when they finally revealed who it was, I'm like, what? No. I totally didn't see it coming even a little bit.
And I think
so
it made sense for me was because the book had so many father-son themes throughout that I was like, oh, well, obviously.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't think about that. Yeah, I didn't see, I mean, the overall father-son, obviously we've got Tom and Jake, but I don't know, do I say it? Should I say it?
I don't know. I will say that, should we say it, you guys? You guys can weigh in if we should spoil the other father-son relationship that's big in the book. That one surprised me.
Same. Yes. I didn't see that one coming either. And I'm like, I actually had to do a flip back. Like, wait, what?
Like, are you sure, Alex North author?
Yeah.
Sure that's how? Are you sure? Can that be real? Is that right?
I mean, I feel like that's one more way that, like, he just proved himself as an author, in my opinion. I mean, I can usually guess endings pretty easily. And so the fact that this one completely sideswiped me.
Yeah.
And just how neatly, like, all the breadcrumbs were there, that you see them when you look back at everything, but that you have no idea where they're leading to while you're reading them. And like, I really did think it was a great novel to read.
Yeah.
I don't know that the creep factor on it was still, I'm still kind of reeling from that. And I mean, I finished it, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, but it was really well written.
Yes.
Very well written. I think I'm going to have another one by him. And I have an audio for him right now.
Oh.
I don't remember which one it is. Is it called The Shadow? Maybe?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I have to. Yes.
Exactly. I have to look. But I'll have to see if it's narrated by the author. I'm not sure if it is. But if it's anything like this one, I'm going to probably be like you. I'll have to make sure I'm not in the dark or anything when I'm listening to. Creep myself out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did it again. Somewhere I missed my star stitch. I've messed something up again.
Oh, The Shadows.
I can't. Yes. Yeah. I think that's the name of it. Yes. Thanks, Layla. I've got that one as an audiobook that I have yet to start. So it's on my chirp. But
so back to the paranormal thing quickly, because definitely has the creepy factor. Good to know. I will have to add that to my queue. I think, he's trying to make this point all along that Jake is extra sensitive. And so basically he's sort of haunted, if you will, by two separate the little girl, I kind of felt like was a sort of Jiminy Cricket-esque thing, like his subconscious telling him things that he sort of already knew. Which he then projected this into his mother. Sorry.
Right.
So he kind of like you know, I felt like that was more of a subconscious than a haunting. And I think a lot of people have encountered a sensitive kid who has like is in their own world. And
Yeah.
my daughter is kind of that way, although she's more like fairies and unicorns, but she just can fully enter her own world. And that's kind of the impression that I got from Jake, except he was deeply grieving his mother. So it was.
That's what I thought that was why he did such a good job making you question the entire time. Is the child really being haunted by this little girl, or is this some figment that he's made up and it's part of his subconscious as a coping mechanism for dealing with the grief of losing his mother? And I think like the entire thing, the entire book, up until a point kind of like right towards the end, and I don't know if you remember this, but he described the little girl as being kind of glowing. Do you remember that part? And at that point, I was like, okay, this kid is totally getting haunted by his dead mom. Like, yeah. Like, so, wait, I think maybe the mom did everything she could to get back. Oh, yeah. I would imagine so. I think if she had any indication of what was, she probably would, Carrie.
Right.
But yeah, like, I think that with that, and like the creepy factor of the boy in the floor, you know, like, you're kind of still left thinking like it in his head, or
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I don't believe in ghosts, but yet I can see myself as a mother wanting to come back and love them and help, especially if they're being stalked by a serial killer. Absolutely.
Yes. Yep. Honey, don't leave the door in. Don't listen to the whispers.
Although,
don't do it.
Can we say like how creepy she was? I mean, she was his mom and she was always sweet to him. And I think the haunting part is like she woke Tom up when when Jake was in trouble.
Yeah.
So that to me is like a little more indicative that it wasn't just his subconscious. But like she was still a very creepy with her weird hair. And you're just and then there's the yes.
That's how he described it.
He definitely made a creepy presence in Jake's life, although she never was scary to him.
Right.
The boy in the floor, on the other hand, oh my word.
Like seriously, like that gravelly voice or whatever. How did that sound on the audio? Did he do a good job?
That was the part where, because it kind of came out of nowhere, right? Like Tom is in the other room and then all of a sudden he hears this creepy voice and I just about, oh my goodness, I still am getting goosebumps because it was so creepy.
For sure. That's hilarious. Oh my God. I'm going to go sleep with the lights on. Conversation. Yeah.
I don't know how much, I don't know if we're going to get cut off.
I don't know if we are either.
So
maybe I can try and, I don't know. What do you think? What should I do? I don't know.
Let's just keep talking.
I'll try and hop back on if it. Okay.
Yeah.
Just keep talking. I don't think he means to be scared. Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely, Carrie. Okay, so I think we're almost towards the end anyway. What do you think about the scenes with Frank Carter and Pete in jail? Like when Pete's visiting Frank Carter. Frank Carter was the original Whisper Man that Pete put away 20 years ago. And Frank obviously knows more than he's letting on or coming right out and saying.
Right.
Also kind of left with an ick factor there. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, in a lot of ways, it sort of feels like he won, right? Because he never really, I mean,
he gets his fame in jail. Like, he's like, basically, they say how he's like king of this, you know, king, like the jail there.
Right. And he always,
how did Frank figure out all along? Because I think there were, I don't know. I feel like he had to have known, because who else would it be?
How did Frank figure out who
else that? So how did Frank figure out that it was? I say it? Who the new Whisper Man is? But, yeah, and I think that that's because, you know, the other guardians of the house with the boys' bones were.
Yeah, they
were all dead.
But they had
this what? You broke up.
Network, though. You know, of these kind of
That's true.
These kind of creeper network guys. Ugh.
Yeah, that's right. He had his friend, I can't remember the guy's name, there in jail with him, that was kind of getting information out and like taking the money for the boys' bones when people would come and look at them.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think there was probably press around it too, like just reading between the lines that when they caught the new Whisper Man, the whole picture probably came together, and there was reporting on like Whisper Man's son. Yeah. Because Frank really,
good point, Karen.
Frank really never like lost his hold over Pete, because Pete had you know, tried to get answers from this guy for 20 years or whatever. And
then he gets to do what he wants with the new Whisper Man.
Right. Which
his way there.
So creepy. That creeped me out almost as much as anything else. Like that part.
Yeah.
And I think part of that, you know, the new Whisper Man maybe feeling a little unsatisfying was because we just found out who he was, and then he goes to jail, the same jail as Frank Carter, and then is killed. And then, I mean,
it didn't actually come right out, and we were just kind of assuming that he kind of got to have his way with him. Carrie, I just saw your question about getting back to the ghosts. That I think I felt like the book left it pretty open-ended, but my personal takeaway was that the ghosts were real.
Yes,
they were real people.
Yeah. Although,
and creepy.
Given what we find out about the new Whisper Man, you know, sort of feeding this information to Jake, I don't know if Jake was.
I don't know that he fed it to him.
But it says
I think that was the made. He made that leap.
Oh.
But I don't know.
Interesting.
I think that
said pretty specifically that he did, but you could be right. My mom's here. Hi, Mom.
Yeah, I feel like. Huh?
My mom's here.
What'd you say?
My mom's here. Hi, Mom.
Mom. Now you've made it. Your mom's on Instagram. See you live. Meanwhile, my mom, on the other hand, she wouldn't figure out how to do this. Wait, what?
I'm just proud that she figured it out. Way to go, Mom.
My mom still calls, like, whenever she's talking about FaceTime, she'll be like, "Are you going to call me on Facebook?" "No, Mom, I'm going to call you on FaceTime." I'm like, God bless her. I love her. I do. She comes out like she's got a whole host of like IT questions that when she comes out to visit, I'm like, all right, give me your iPad. Let me fix everything, you know?
Oh, and see, I'm kind of it's my little sister that does all the IT fixes, because I'm just like, it frustrates me so much. If there's a problem, I seriously would just like, okay, that's fine. I'll just buy a new one because I hate technology.
Well, the funniest part with my parents is that my stepdad, he was a software and he wrote code for a living. Like he can tell, but the thing is like he doesn't know how to explain things and do things in a way that she's going to be able to replicate or try and do herself. And so I'm like, there got to be a point where I got into an argument. I'm like, stop changing her passwords. You changing the stuff that I don't even know. If I don't know what it is, I can't help her. Anyways, I digress. But off topic again.
That were like, that was my hope, was that it would be like a funny conversation for someone.
I love that Carrie said that she's talking right back to us in her empty room.
Perfect.
We're right. Okay, so one other thing that I wanted to kind of talk about was Pete and Amanda, and like their, I don't want to say relationship, that kind of connotes something entirely weird, but their working relationship, like how she progresses, how she views him at the beginning of the book, and how that changes over the course of the book, and then where she's at in her own life and in career at the end of the book. Just to compare and contrast, like at the beginning of the book, so Amanda, for those that don't know, she was the detective that was in charge of the case to find the new Whisper Man. And once they realized that the cases were connected, they brought in Pete, because he was the one that put away the original Whisper Man. And so he was kind of consulting and helping her on the case. And at the beginning of the book, it was kind of like Pete was this cautionary tale of what she didn't want to become. She wanted to climb the ladder and make a name for herself and her career, whereas he kind of, that's not what it was about for him. Also, he is a recovering alcoholic. And, throughout the book, it references that he lost the love of his life because of his alcoholism, and kind of how that affected him at work and people's perceptions of him at work. And then at the end of the book, after going through the same type of case that he had to, she's kind of right where he was. And like literally, I think the book ended, her chapter for like wrapping up the book was she was getting into a nice bottle of wine, if I remember right. I thought that was really interesting, how it kind of came full circle again. Just another way where I thought that Alex North did a really great job of just pulling everything together.
Well, the thing that I found interesting about Amanda was that she and Pete, we don't have a whole lot of just exchanges between them, but they are on the same page a lot in terms of, and I can't remember what exactly it was, but there was like, Amanda had, so this first little boy who's this victim, Amanda had, yes, exactly, Layla.
Yeah,
the cycle
itself, definitely.
Hopefully she does not become an alcoholic.
Another one of those things left it where like you don't really know, like, is she going to be or is she not going to be?
Right.
Kind of open-ended again.
Right. But so she had like told the other officers that were investigating or helping with the investigation, do not give the parents any grief. They made some mistakes. They know that. We can't,
right.
We don't need to add to that. And Pete had done the same thing in his investigation years past. So they were they had the same even though they weren't necessarily super communicative, and even though Pete really wasn't on the case throughout the whole book, well, he was tertiary to the case for a while, we'll say.
Right.
But they were always kind of on the same wavelength in treating it with, you know, trying to treat the victims with compassion and trying to treat and they were both just very tenacious. So even though they both, you know, Pete was self-described as he had been ambitious, and then wasn't, like this case kind of took that drive away from him, but he still had a very real drive to solve it, I guess. Like,
Yes.
like to, you know, his drive was more that he wanted the justice and he wanted the resolution, but he didn't so much care about if he was high on the ladder.
Right. Yeah. He wanted the resolution, not the recognition.
Right.
Yeah. Agreed.
Good.
And I think that towards the end, like, I think that like at the beginning of the book, Amanda was more like, I mean, not that she was in the case, but I had this feeling from her that she was definitely more about using this case as a springboard for her career. Right. I got that vibe from her at the beginning of, whereas towards the end of the book, when the case has beaten her down, that I felt like that completely changed. And now she's on the same wavelength as Pete. And she's like, I just want to make sure that this is done. Right. This needs to stop. Yeah. And it wasn't so much about her career anymore. And I don't know that, you know, if the book had continued on, that it would have been. I don't know. Again, that's another open-ended ending, I guess, for her as well. Right. Yeah. Lots of kind of like going in circles, lots of everything comes full circle. There's a lot going on in this book that, you know, even just as we've been discussing it, like the layers kind of keep peeling back more and more. Right. Yeah. I think my feelings as far as like how the book ended and being satisfied with the resolution, you know, at first I was kind of feeling inconclusive about that. Like I felt like it was a pretty true ending. But I think the thing that bothered me was you hit the nail on the head with it earlier when you said that it meant that Frank won. And yeah, I think that's really probably my biggest dissatisfaction with it. But I mean, that's also part of what makes it, sadly, very realistic, you know? Yeah. So I don't know if I don't really have a whole lot left on my list here to talk about. I don't know if anybody has any questions or anything they want to talk about. Yeah. Or Emily, if you had anything to contribute.
Well, I did want to talk briefly about Tom and Karen.
Right. Yeah.
Tom being the author who's recently-ish widowed. He's a widower.
Widower.
But I don't know I want you to that. What?
Say it 10 times fast and let's see how you do.
So he meets a single mom in the schoolyard of Jake's new school. And which, can I just say, when Tom is standing there like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to be here. I hate drop off. Totally me. Like, I am the anti-social.
Yeah.
Like, unless I knew you before, please stay 6 feet away from me. I don't want to talk.
That was pre-COVID, right?
That was pre-COVID. Yes, like 6.
That's just real engagement for Emily. Yeah, I don't know. I tend to be the social person, I guess. I'll talk to whoever, but I'm also not to as well. So I don't know. I guess it depends on my mood.
Yes.
But I guess it was an interesting relationship that developed over the course of the book.
Right. And I like the way that it was in there, and I like that we see a little bit of a happy ending for Tom.
There's a possibility.
the
of a happy
ending. But
yeah.
I will say that what the only
I said it was very open.
right. The only thing that I didn't like about that was that this whole time Tom is grappling with his wife's death, and of course, but like he just didn't, it didn't really seem like he was healthy enough for a new relationship. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, not that there would ever probably be a right time. He just, we hear his inner voice throughout the whole book. Sorry, what was that?
Oh, I was just saying he was grieving so hard that, yeah.
Right. And, you know, you never get the impression that he thinks that Karen is going to solve his problems or whatever. Because sometimes that's a theme, but you don't get that impression. But I definitely, it's just like, you know, you're not ready, buddy. Go to therapy first.
Go see that counselor.
Oh, yes.
Get that taken care of. I thought it was interesting just from the aspect of her profession, which we don't find out until, you know, what, almost the end of the book, is she's a reporter.
Right.
Working a crime beat. And
right.
So he's gone, spilled his guts to her. And then after he finds out what she does, has this oh shit moment. Like, but I have to say, like, I wonder how hard that would have been in a real life situation and how the outcome would have been.
Well,
you know, like, I think it's a really super good story, and it would be hard to be able to turn that down.
Well, and she was really sincere in her apology, as far as it made sense why she hadn't told him. But at the same time, I would think that if you've just sort of only very tentatively started seeing this person, like, you have no real reason to trust them after that. So bye-bye.
Right. Yeah. I think she was definitely very sincere. I'm just saying, like, I think that had it been a real life scenario, I don't know that it's a good thing this is fiction. That's all. I don't think it's realistic in that aspect. Sadly, I don't know if that just makes me sick, but
He thought book about it.
Yeah, I'm glad that I didn't end up being anything further in his story of stuff. You know what I'm like, to add to the story and follow that as a potential, you know, way of complicating things even more. I'm glad that he not to do that with that particular line. But yeah, also their story kind of ended very open-ended, and like it's the possibility of a happy ending that hopefully maybe someday could possibly happen.
Right.
Yeah.
After therapy.
Yeah.
Everybody go to therapy.
After.
We all need therapy.
Yes. Especially after everything now. Like, if you weren't in therapy already, you need to be now. Like, all right. Anything else that you had to add? I want to try and wrap things up here. That way people can, I have kids to get to bed too. My husband's probably up there like,
yeah,
I know.
Our 1 hour of time that we've had to ourselves.
And I still managed to miscount, and I'm going to have to frog this thing again. Like, here we go. Number 7, lucky number 7. And just stop doing other things with this particular blanket.
That's your indicator. I had a couple of quotes that I really liked. And they're on my phone.
Yeah.
On my phone right now, so I probably won't quote them exactly, but the one quote that I really liked was, maybe it might have iClouded over to my iPad. I don't know how the cloud works. And
Oh, man.
let's see, notes. The one quote that I really liked was something about like battles are, yeah, it's not on here.
Maybe a quick Google search.
No, that's okay. The one quote was like battles are much better understood when they're seen from the sky or something like that.
Oh yeah, I remember that too.
Just kind of a different take on hindsight is 2020. Like it's so much easier to see if you can just take a step back and get a little perspective. And so I really like that. Oh, the other one was grief is a stew with 1,000 ingredients.
I had that one too.
Yeah,
I actually put that one in my review.
Yeah,
it's going to be on the blog. So.
Yeah, I just like that. He's exactly right. Like the grieving process is really complicated, and it doesn't. It's anybody who's experienced a loss really knows that like there's not any you point to and say if I fix this my grief will be over. It's a stew with 1,000 ingredients, and I think one thing that I liked about this book is that everybody sort of hates on themselves. We talked about self-loathing, but it kind of makes you root for them more because you're like, you're not doing it wrong. You're doing a great job. Just go to therapy and you're a great Tom, you're a great dad. Just keep going. Just keep trying. And I think the reason I just like that is like, you have to just, one of the overall things that I took from this book is like, give yourself a little more grace. Like, if you've had grief or trauma, you can't just solve it, and you can't solve it for anyone else.
Right.
Like Tom couldn't solve his son's grief either. He could just be there for him.
Right.
And
take him to therapy.
Yeah. Tom, go to therapy. And also get one of those camera doorbells, Tom. Come on. Like, if you've got a creeper sticking his finger through your letter.
Reached me out so bad. Like, as a parent, like, just my heart was like racing when I read that. The boys down there at the door, the whisper man's on the other side talking to him through the mail slot or something, and like trying to get him to unlock the door, and he's got the keys and he's about to do it, and then finally Tom comes down just in the nick of time, and it's like, oh my goodness, my heart can't take this.
Yes. No, get yourself a Ring doorbell, TM.
Let's make a little to-do list for Tom. Therapy, Ring doorbell.
And so I've been to this, podcasts are like all sponsored by the same companies. And the one that I've been binging, which is called Morbid, it's amazing. But Mom, you can't listen to it. But they have BetterHelp. That's the one. Like all podcasts are sponsored by BetterHelp. So this Instagram Live is not sponsored by BetterHelp, but Tom, go to BetterHelp.
I was gonna say. That's
and
hilarious.
if you listen to a podcast, 10% off your month. Do you
stop that? People are gonna start texting me like, "What are you doing?" So Carrie was asking. She said, "Do you think that the whisper man was the one at the door, or that it was another ghost?" And I think that it was actually the whisper man, because I'm pretty sure that they talked when they were talking from his point of view. he was referencing that in his point of view.
Yeah.
So that the new Whisper Man that was at the door, which just makes that so much creepier. Like,
ugh, yeah.
I'm like getting that skin crawling feeling right now. Like, eh. Yeah.
Ugh.
Anyway.
Yeah. Moving.
Well, cool. Moving. Yeah.
Well,
I don't think I had anything else for it. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
No, not really. I'd like to end on a less creepy note, but I can't.
Yep. Well, I'm going to talk about a little bit about the next month and kind of what to expect. So I mentioned this at the beginning, but I'm going to go ahead and reiterate it now that we were discussing The Whisper Man by Alex North, because I know that we're some people that were just joining in. And this has been definitely had some spoilers in it. So if you do watch the replay, just kind of keep that in mind. But I am going to be posting a review for The Whisper Man without spoilers on my blog tomorrow morning. It's scheduled. So if I can figure out how to post this video to YouTube and IGTV, which I'm hoping isn't really hard, then I'm going to do that after I'm done tonight. And
thanks, Carrie.
Then I was gonna
Sorry. Thanks, Carrie. I totally interrupted you. Perspective on Grief was
that's okay.
great to end on. Thank you.
There it is. Yeah. So next month we are going to do the Whisper Network, because as I mentioned previously, I'm dying to discuss this. I might actually reread it again right beforehand, just so that it's all fresh in my head.
If it's that,
because I feel like have you read this?
I haven't.
I read it.
I listened to the preview on Audible, and the preview, because you know how it sometimes just cuts in like in the middle of something, and it just was throwing out all these names, and the preview was confusing. So I was like, I don't know if I can read this book, because they're just like, it introduced like 6 characters in the space of 4.5 minutes or whatever it is, and my brain hurt.
Listening to it wasn't that hard. Like, they must have cut in at a really weird segment. I did not find it confusing, but again, I read the hard copy version, or like the physical version, as opposed to listening to it, which I know sometimes make a difference in some books. But that is going to be next month's book that we will be talking about. And just again, I'm trying to do this on a monthly basis here. So I am planning to do our book club meetings every last Tuesday of the month. So if you think that you might like to guest host with me, potentially either on April's book or even other ones down the line, I've got a link in my bio here on Instagram where you can go get all the details for the book club, as well as put your name on the list, fill out a form basically, so I get what your interests are, and if they're aligning with what the book is that we've got or whatever. Start having a nice potential group of co-hosts that I can pull from and see if you're interested or not. So there's a link for that stuff in my bio. You can get all the details on the book club. And let's see. So I did the next month's book.
It looks like Carrie.
I'm just going through my.
Very good. So you got what?
Yeah, you got to read it.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm trying to doing this with me for the next one too. Anyway, yes. So last Tuesday of the month, next month, is Whisper Network by Chandler Baker. And I just want to say a huge thank you to Emily for joining me tonight, because I'm not really good in front of a camera. And so having somebody to talk to is definitely making it easier, and I'm glad you into it. So thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for all the good questions. I will try and remember to post a picture of that beanie.
The mirror. Yeah.
And maybe I'll, there's also one, maybe I'll force you to plug it in your stories as well, just in case people aren't following both.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah,
I'll post
definitely.
in.
And I got, Emily is tagged on my Instagram post that I posted earlier this morning. But when I post this on IGTV, I will tag you. So people that want to follow along with your journey on Instagram will be able to find you there too.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, journey that I
all right.
out like 4 times lately in the last year. I took a COVID quarantine from
back kicking and screaming.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks, Layla. Thanks for everybody who watched.
Yes,
it was a lot of fun.
In and discussing it made it fun for us too. So I really appreciate it because I get so nervous on these things. So yeah, I'm so excited that you guys were here and we had such a good discussion. I had so much fun tonight with you guys. So tune in for next month. Bye. Yay! Thanks everybody. Bye. I don't know how to end it.